Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Saturday, February 23rd, 2019, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're looking at sulfur dioxide on cams here. They don't have any new methane data up. The latest is from Thursday, and I already showed that to you yesterday. But I wanted to show what's going on. This is the West Tropic view of the world, including, so it includes North America and South America basically. And what we're seeing, well, I've got Friday up here, and this is total column level, and this, when we see large releases of sulfur dioxide, it can be from volcanoes or earthquakes or, just things moving. Sometimes it's a sign of industrial pollution, but what we're seeing here, this is Popocatépetl down in Mexico that keeps erupting, and it's pretty much constant, but look at how that has gone up into the column, and it's going out all the way across the United States and out into the eastern part as well. Here it is coming up from Hawaii, so we know that the volcanoes there are still active and are releasing gases and things. We're seeing it from up here in Alaska. There are some active volcanoes right now, and we're seeing lots of earthquakes up there too. Also of interest is right here in Brazil, and it's coming down kind of in a boomerang shape, and we've seen releases from here before, and so this was from Friday, and yesterday was when they had that big 7.5 earthquake over here in Ecuador, so just over to the west of where this was releasing. So I just find that interesting. Then these are indicative of volcanoes going off across the west coast of South America as you go down, and here's more volcanic activity. Now, also of interest is this area up here in the Seattle region. I don't know what this is about. They've been having some earthquakes up here. Also, this is near where that San Andreas fault line goes up and goes into that Cascadia zone and the Juan de Fuca plate. So I'll pull up the earthquake map here and show you what I'm well, okay, so the Juan de Fuca, that's further down south. That's in Northern California, but what we're talking about is up here, and we've been seeing a series of earthquakes up here in the Seattle region pretty much every day. So it looks like from cams that there is a release going on. It's not red, but it doesn't have to be red to signify a release. So I found that kind of interesting. And then if we move forward to Saturday, we see a much greater release, and I can't really tell if it's just trailing down from what's coming down out of Alaska or if it's a new release all by itself. And we'd see more of a release over here, down here in South America, but the forecasts periods are not really good, not that good on cams. for sulfur dioxide. They're pretty good for methane, but sulfur dioxide seems to fluctuate. You know, they can't predict the earthquakes and the volcanic activity that much. Okay, so it looks like, according to the data, it is releasing here, but it's also flowing down out of Alaska. So let's start over there and run that data again. Let's see what we can see here. See, it is releasing and then it's moving down too. And large release out of Popocatépetl. So there's that you know, we can always find things to look at on cams. There's also a release up here in Canada. So there's that. So I just thought I'd bring that to people's attention. If you want to check that out yourself, you're certainly welcome to. So now I've got some articles and some updates to situations that I want to share. We're going to go over comments today, and then we're going to go over earthquakes. So it's going to be a jam-packed show, so sit back and let's see what's going on. So this is in follow-up to Hurricane Alma that's down here in the South Pacific, and they were thinking it was going to be hitting Australia and maybe flooding out a whole bunch of stuff. That didn't happen. Then they were thinking it was going to be coming down and taking care of the drought situation in New Zealand. Looks like that's not happening, and so it's been downgraded. It was a Category 3. Now it's been downgraded to a much lower quality. So here it is from today, the 23rd. Here it is from yesterday, and so last time I showed this was, can't remember. Here it was from the 19th, where it was kind of coming down. Here it was from the 20th. And look how it just tightened up and went into a stalling pattern here. Because on the 20th, it looked like it was spreading out and moving on down towards Australia. But instead, it's tightened up and diminished quite a bit. This was on the 21st, and then this tail kind of spread out and was coming down over New Zealand. Here's the 22nd from yesterday, so it was, then it was picking up steam again. So we thought it was going to come on down. It was pretty cloudy over New Zealand there. And then here it is today, and it's really fizzling out. It's falling apart is what it looks like, and it's we can see the tail of it coming over the northern island of New Zealand, but it's not heavy at all. And Robin Westenra has been reporting on this, and he calls it a fizzer. So I thought we would start with his article on his blog post, Lower Hutt's extreme weather event. This weather event may be a fizzer as a drought buster. Weather forecasts are one thing and reality is quite another. Last night there was a warning out for heavy rain on the Tararas, promising up to 3 inches of rain with up to an inch falling in an hour. Now that warning has been lifted. I have no idea what nature is going to produce, but the signs are that this weather event is not going to be any drought buster. So their warnings for heavy rain has been lifted for Northland and for Tarara Range. and there it is. Just cloudy. As far as forecasts are concerned, it does not look as if we're going to get much rain much more than a few drops of rain. So, I'll leave the link below if people want to look at his blog post, and he did a whole thing about the river, the Hutt River, and how it's flowing at half the speed, and it's everything's drying up down there. They've been in an extreme drought for months, and so we were hoping that this storm was going to bring them some much needed rain, and there's fires going on, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, unfortunately. So thanks for keeping us updated on that, Robin. And he sent me messages and said, you know, it's just a little bit of rain, but just hardly enough to even wet the ground. So there are a couple of more posts that I will include in my show notes, but I just don't want to spend the time going over them. It's basically saying the same thing. Next is an interesting news item out of RT, or Russia Today. And it says, biblical prophecy, Red Sea countries braced for plague of locusts. And this is from February 23rd, 2019. And here's a picture of the locust swarm. Look at that. And in the Bible, it says in Revelation, in the end times, there will be plagues of locusts across the land. And remember, like about a month ago, there were locusts over at Mecca. So it says the United Nations is warning that Egypt and Saudi Arabia could soon be in the midst of a plague of locusts, as an outbreak in Sudan and Eritrea is rapidly spreading along both sides of the Red Sea. Heavy rains in the region sparked a breeding frenzy and have unleashed 2 generations of the swarming insects since October, according to a dire warning from the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. And here's the article. If you want to click there, you can go to the one where the locust plagues at Mecca were. The FAQ's chief locust expert, Keith Cressman, said the next 3 months will be critical in bringing the situation under control before the insects begin breeding again in summer. There they are. Locust swarms contain up to 80 million insects per square mile, and they can extend for hundreds of square miles. Each locust can eat its own weight in food every day, so they can pose an apocalyptic threat to food supplies. A very small swarm eats the same amount of food in one day as about 35,000 people, and the devastating impact locusts can have on food crops poses a major threat to food security, especially in already vulnerable areas. So there you have it. We are in the end times, and here comes the plague of locusts, and there's going to be more and more of this stuff as the weather gets out of control and out of sync, and then the insects will be on the move and the whole thing. So there's that. Now, there's some other things I'm going to discuss, but just as I'm talking about comments. So let's go on over to comments. Now, I'm not going to read every single comment that's come in the last couple of days. and I'd rather not get into the political comments, and because I just don't want to go there. And but there is this one that I want to address in kind of in detail, and this is the only time I'm going to do it. So people don't have to keep sending me messages and stuff wanting me to talk about this, because I'm not going to. This is the only time I'm going to talk about this. Gary Zod, under my methane and earthquake report from, when was that? The 21st, so 2 days ago. He says, "Hi Margo, have you thought about doing a video on Fukushima? I've studied what is going on in Japan. It's a global disaster that doesn't get reported in the mainstream media. The Pacific Ocean has been completely irradiated. If the main reactor goes critical mass, we all will be meeting our maker. Much love, Margo." And I'm aware of what's going on in Fukushima, and just to respond, thank you, Gary, for listening. I'm not going to be doing a show on Fukushima, and I did respond, and I said Dana Durnford has done massive research on Fukushima and the effects of it. He does a daily live show, and I consider him the expert in this area. And then I put a link to his YouTube channel, and then I put a link to his website, which is thenuclearproctologist.org. And I say, here's his website with thousands of pictures he's taken and reports on his research. And this is a really sensitive topic. It's a hot topic. I agree that it's an important topic, but I just don't want to spend the time and energy to go into it when other people have already done it. And I'm here to show what's happening right here, right now, and to get people to come to Jesus in these last few days and hours. This is my purpose and my mission, and what I'm reporting on is what God is directing me to report on. So if people say, why don't you cover this, why don't you cover that, you know, your comment might be approved, it might not be approved. But you know, just because someone says, why don't you do this, my response is, why don't you do the research and come back and give us a report on it, if you'd like to, because I'm on a time frame here, and I have my specific instructions on what to report on from God and Jesus, and this is a mission from God. And because we are in the end times, and I am a messenger, and I'm trying to throw out a life preserver to anybody who will catch on to it. And it doesn't mean I have to report on every single topic out there. And so I think Dana Durnford does a much better job than I could. He's got a video from every day for years and years and years on there on his YouTube channel. He's had 6 gag orders from the courts to have him not talk about certain things about the Fukushima disaster. And so, you know, let him have the gag orders. Another thing is, I come under plenty of attack without having that on me too. And in light of that, I want to just share some links and things. Remember my world and climate news methane and earthquake report from February the 20th? You remember that? I'll leave the link below, but in that I reported on the mini nuke. You remember that? If people watched watch the show. So I think some people just watch the methane report and tune out. I reported on, hang on. Let me get, I copied too much there. I reported on this article from Zero Hedge about the mini nukes that the U.S. is producing, and I read that whole article. So the very next day, Forbes came out with an article. Not 24 hours later, and I'll leave all the links below so that you can look at this. I wasn't even going to report on this, but now that continue the site. Now why is this not working? See, it doesn't want me to report on this. There it is. This came out not 24 hours after my show on the 20th, and it says, "Stop letting your cartoon fears of nuclear bombs kill the planet," by Michael Schellenberger. And you do your own research and find out who Michael Schellenberger is. And this is a whole thing, and it's got a picture of this guy, you know, like with crazy eyes. It looks like from Dr. Strangelove. And he talks all about how nuclear is not bad and this and that, and it didn't kill the planet and all this stuff. And so don't let your fears about the nuclear bombs killing the planet keep you from welcoming whatever's going to happen. And so now this is not a coincidence, and I want to show you why, because I've talked about this video of mine, the Novaya Zemlya video. Novaya Zemlya, the smoking gun for rapid Arctic warming. I did that video. It's a whole report. It's a 2-hour show done on June 17th of 2018. Uh-oh. See, I'm having problems. Just bear with me. It's because they don't want me to show this, and I know I'm going to come under attack. And this is exactly why I didn't want to do this. So I'm going to do this once, and this is it. Here's the video. I'll leave the link below. People can look it up in my YouTube. Novaya Zemlya, the smoking gun for rapid Arctic warming. Margo explains her theory of why the Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet. It all centers around the tiny Russian island, Novaya Zemlya. Oh, and in the video I say Novaya Zemlya. So don't give me any grief over that either. I learned after that it's Novaya Zemlya. So, and here are all my research links, and so I did that, and I prayed about putting that out because I knew I was going to come under attack, and I asked God, do you want me to put this out? And it's an hour and 34 minutes, and God said, yes, put it out. I'm like, okay. And it's all about the how Novaya Zemlya was used as you know, for bomb testing during the Cold War. And I did all this research, and I showed Google Earth, here's like where they did the nuclear bomb testing. This was all on Google Earth, and they did above ground and below ground and above the water and in the water, and I mean over 200. And I mean, it's extensive. I went into great detail, and then they dumped all this nuclear waste over here in the Kara Sea, and including nuclear reactor rods, and there's a nuclear submarine that's sunk there and all this stuff, and they just dump it. And so, you know, why wouldn't it contribute to the Arctic warming? And here's where they had an accident underground and the whole thing. And then I show look at the methane back then, and that was on the old scale, and now we're on the new scale. So we're seeing red now, and you know, this would be like orangey. That red would be orangey, and this yellow would be green on the new scale. So that was the old scale. So go back and watch that show. So not 24 hours after I did that show, this was published in Forbes by the same guy. Stop letting your ridiculous fears of nuclear waste kill the planet. And it's almost the exact same title by Michael Schellenberger. Oh, he's totally pro-nuclear. They call it the new green, nuclear. And nuclear kills the ozone layer too. Nuclear anything kills the ozone layer. I did research on that too. It's all in my Novaya Zemlya video. And look at this. And it makes me look like a crazy person. Oh, don't let your fears, you know, it's like a woman from the 50s, and it's like, oh, you know, it's so bad, it's so bad. Oh, she's just, she shouldn't be afraid. And so on and so forth. So you do your own research into this Michael Schellenberger, and you make up your own mind. And you think this is a coincidence that he publishes articles like this within 24 hours after I do a video, even commenting or presenting anything on nuclear? It is no coincidence, folks. And I know I'm being watched very closely. Satan is watching me very closely, and this is one of Satan's minions. This Michael Schellenberger is one of Satan's minions, and that's all I have to say. So that's another reason that I don't care to do a show on Fukushima. I know all about it. I've been watching Dana Durnford for years. There's another gentleman, I think he's from Japan. I think he was raised in Japan. His name is Yoichiro Shimatsu, and he's a journalist, and he reports on the Fukushima situation too. So, you know, we're not going to talk about it anymore. And I know it's a disaster, and they'll never fix it. It's leaking. It's completely leaking all the time. Thousands and thousands of gallons of radiated water going into the Pacific Ocean and heating up the ocean and killing all the sea life and killing this and killing that. And I know the radiation polluted the whole northern hemisphere. I know all of that, but it doesn't bring anything to the table on how we're going to deal with what we're dealing with. Okay? It's history. It's old news. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Doogie Dog says, great show tonight. And that was the show that I did that on the World and Climate News. Thanks, Doogie Dog. lots of topics, and there are many things going on. One reason I listen to you is because I think you have been spoken to. I have, and I speak all the time to God and Jesus and other beings who are of a divine origin. So, yeah. In Russia a few years back, they had no warnings of that asteroid. I have a deep interest in anything asteroid since my dream in August 2015. I had no idea what I had seen. It was a huge gray cavernous stone, like two parts stuck into one. I remember how deep black the space was. God didn't tell me anything. I wasn't sure of what I had seen. I had to look up the type of asteroids, and there it was. I've shared this in a few places. It was on that list of the one you named. Imagine that. Then I have dream logged warning dream 322. It is so amazing how God plans and reveals info to us. Falling asleep, dear Margo, later. Thank you, Doogie Dog. Thank you for your comment and for sharing that with us. And many people are having dreams of these things, and the Bible says that there will be 2 asteroids that are going to be crashing into the earth. There are going to be 2. It says that in Revelation. And so we have to be ready for these things. And it's not to be afraid. And if you're tight with Jesus, you know that these things are going to come to pass, and that it doesn't matter what happens to the physical body. What happens is your spiritual body, your spirit, your soul, and that you don't get caught up by Satan, so that you can when you die or taken out, you're gonna go with Jesus. That's the important thing. Sensible Hair says, temps everywhere going crazy. All this methane is having a dramatic effect. Cheers, Margo. Yeah, it is. It is. And then DDDSB says, I am a he. Well, that's good to know. I never know. Well, sometimes I can tell. You know, if you have your picture up there, you know, we can usually tell. Or in the name, we can usually tell. But, you know, a lot of times I can't tell if it's a he or a she that I'm talking to. I just write like a she, ha. I believe in punctuation, grammar, spelling, and English, all dying arts in the 21st century, and generally assigned as a feminine characteristic. No offense taken. Your report always makes my day, like a cherry on top. I see a 7.5 being reported in Ecuador today. Here come the big ones. And that was from yesterday. So, thank you, DDDSB, for your comment, and thank you for being here. And I'm glad that my reports speak to you. So, yeah, the big ones are coming, and they've just begun. Gary Grove says, good job, Margo. Very interesting. Thank you. You're welcome, Gary Grove. And then Robin leaves a couple of links. He says, I've done my own bit of catch up with my own short video, and this is on methane. So you can click there and go and watch the Reader's Digest version. And that's what Robin does. He just goes right to the heart of it. And then here he says, here's the link to his blog post that I just shared. He says, the weather event in New Zealand is supposed to hit us tomorrow, but as far as where I live, it is not likely to bring much rain. So thank you, Robin, for your updates and for reporting and for all your research. And then Sensible here under my video from yesterday says it's all getting very messy now. Well, messier. Thanks, Margo. It is. It's getting way messier. Nostradamus, aka Dave from the UK, says, "Hi Margo." Hi Dave. Here are some terms, as well as faster than previously thought, that I'm expecting to be hearing on the mainstream news in the coming months. Blue ocean event, wet bulb temperature, all of a sudden weather whiplash. Have you any to add to my list, and what are your predictions? Kiss, Dave. If anyone wants to add to his list, they can certainly do that. I think that's a good list to start with. My prediction is time is short, and you better get your spiritual house in order. I'm not in the prediction business because we know what's going to happen. It's just hard to know when. And if you put a time frame on something, then it doesn't happen in a certain time frame. You get a bunch of grief over it. So I've learned that it's all in God's time. And then Nostradamus leaves another comment. He says, I've been comparing today's high temperatures to average daily highs in many major Northern Hemisphere cities. Below, I'm presenting the data in the form of which month these highs should be expected, definitely not February weather. And then he goes through and lists all these cities from around the world. And what he's finding is the highs that are around the world right now are months early. So, at least a month early. A month to 2 or 3 months early. So, and then he says, while it is normal that variations do occur, to see such a wide geographical area shift a couple of months should leave no one in any doubt of the abrupt climate change taking place right now. And I'd say thanks for this research, Dave. Weather weirdness is upon us for sure. Yeah, and so that took a lot of time and effort for him to do that, and I really appreciate that. And so we're going to be watching as we move into out of winter and into the springtime, and then see what happens. I expect, this is not a prediction, I'm just saying I expect that we will start to see summer temperatures in the middle of spring. So there's that. So we're going to close those out. I'm going to take a short break and then we'll get to earthquakes. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And let's get everything set up here. What we're looking at is USGS, all magnitudes for the last 24 hours, and we're showing 217 earthquakes worldwide, which is a high number considering it's the weekend and the earthquake makers are off work. So there's that. And worldwide there are 43 earthquakes that are 2.5 magnitude and higher. So what we're seeing is the number is up and also the magnitude is up. So we're going to start with this one over here in Greece, in the Mediterranean Sea, right on this red line, just to the south of Crete. This one is a 4.2 magnitude near Polyachora, Greece, and it came in yesterday at 6:06 p.m. Pacific time, 35 kilometers deep. All of these times are going to be in Pacific time because that's my time zone, and that's what I relate to the easiest. Next, we have one on land in Tajikistan of 4.0 near Rashtakala, Tajikistan, at 3:07 this morning. Was deep, 169 kilometers deep. And remember that the deep ones cause movement of the plates around the planet. Next is one in China of 4.9, 6 kilometers west-northwest of Yanling, China, at 1:38 this afternoon. That would be big enough to do damage. That's almost a 5, 4.9. You can think 5 if it says 4.9. Next, let's hop down here to Indonesia. This one is on land, looks like it's right on the coast, a 5.2 near Alotau, Papua New Guinea, at 9:40 this morning, 5 kilometers deep. The shallow ones are what cause tsunamis, so we're going to click on the tsunami wave and see if it's in here. So that was a 5.2. It's not on here. The only thing from today that's on here is a 4.5 near Puerto Rico. Well, let's go ahead and look at that while we're here. No tsunami threat from a nearby earthquake. So no tsunami threats today. .2, that could cause damage, and definitely you'd be able to feel that. Next, now look how these are happening on land. A lot of them. Normally they happen in the ocean. 5.0 near Tobelo, Indonesia, at 3:43 this morning. Then, here's one in the ocean, a 4.1 near Anyar, Indonesia, at 6:18 last night. Look how deep this one was. 527 kilometers deep. That will cause movement of the plates. Definitely. Next, up here in the Philippines is another one on land. 4.9 near Subic, Philippines. Again, think 5. If it's 4.9, think 5. This one came in yesterday at 10:14 p.m. 71 kilometers deep. 4 kilometers from Subic, right there. Next, moving on up into Japan, here's one just off the coast of Nagasaki, 4.6. This one came in at 9:30 last night, 9:30 p.m. in the ocean there. Next, we've got 2. And here's Fukushima. Now where'd it go? Here it is. We would see earthquakes here now that I just had that long discussion about it. So we've got 2 here. Here's a 4.4 near Iwaki that happened last night at 10:48 p.m., 42 kilometers deep, and a 4.4 near Nami, Japan at 4:33 this afternoon, 36 kilometers deep. There's Nami. Fukushima's further in. Now coming on over to South America. So we had that 7.5 yesterday in Ecuador. And so Ecuador is quiet today. But further down, we've had this 4.1 near Antofagasta, Chile at 1:55 this morning, 103 kilometers deep. Next was this 5.0 near El Aguilar, Argentina at 4:14 this morning, 204 kilometers deep. And then there was a 4.9 near Villamontes, Bolivia at 8:34 this morning, 22 kilometers deep. So we got lots of stuff going on. Next, we have an Arctic earthquake that came in today on the island, on Iceland, right in the center, right on the red line. There was a 4.5 near Hofen, Iceland. This one happened at 1:24 this afternoon. And we can see that line is where the North American plate and the Eurasian plate, they come together there. And they split the island of Iceland right down the middle. That is an active earthquake area and also volcano area. Now let's move on over to all magnitudes. And let's go to Hawaii next. I have 15 here on the map today, so I'll just call them off. 1.8 at a minus 0.1 kilometers depth. It looks like that's in Kilauea. 2.0, 1.8, 2.0, 2.4, that's at Kilauea. 1.8, 1.8, 1.9, 2.1, 1.7, 2.1, 1.9, 1.7 at a minus 0.4 kilometers depth, 2.3 at a minus 0.2 kilometers depth, and that's in the ocean, and at a minus depth in the ocean, and a 2.2. Let's zoom in a little bit and look at Kilauea. Now these, look at all these either in the crater or on the rim. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 all around it. So I believe that Kilauea is building back. For an event. That's my thoughts. Next, we've had activity at in the Dominican Republic. Starting at 2.5 magnitude and higher, we've had a bunch. We've had 11 over here today. And they've been building. How many of all magnitudes? 11. 11 all magnitudes. And they've all been above 2.5 magnitude. 2.5 magnitude or higher. So I'm going to call them off. 3.0, 3.2, and you can see where they light up. 2.6, 2.9, that one was on land right there. 3.0, 3.1, 2.8, 3.2, 2.5, 4.1, and 4.2. This one just happened. So we had a 4.1 at 11:21 this morning. Oh no, this one did not just happen. That was the last one that happened. And then at 11:58 was a 4.2, just across the way there. So we're seeing an uptick in magnitude here. Fortunately, we don't have any big ones on any land masses. This 2.9 was on Puerto Rico, so that wasn't big enough to cause any damage. So we're not. So this 4.2 was in the ocean. Didn't cause any damage, but it's showing lots of movement. Lots of movement. Now let's hop up to Alaska. Here in the Aleutian Islands was a 4.1 near Otka. This one happened last night at 6:51 p.m. Then 3.8 near Kodiak at 4:12 this morning. 4.4 near Kodiak at 10:45 p.m. last night. 2.2 near Chignik Lake at 7:18 last night. There's those. Let's go to 2.5 magnitude and higher. Let's see what we've got. We've got 10 that are 2.5 magnitude and higher. So let's check these out. Here's a 3.3 near Redoubt Volcano. 122 kilometers deep. Here's a 2.5 near Big Lake. That's in the Anchorage region. 2.8 near Esther. 2.5 near Nenana. 3.4 near Tanana. And 3.5 near Kobuk. And a 2.8 near Circle. Now let's look at all magnitudes. And we've got 57 here in Alaska today. Not as many as we've seen sometimes. The average is between 50 and 100 a day up here because it's a seismically active region. Here it is in the Anchorage area, and around we're seeing 41 on the map. So lots of small ones still, but they count. They're important. Just because they're small doesn't mean that they don't count as showing movement. Now we're going to go down into the lower 48 of the United States. I'm going to start over here with this 2.5 near Medford, Oklahoma at 6:38 this morning, and a 1.9 near Harper, Kansas at 11:11 last night. Next, moving into Utah, we've got one at Bluffdale. Remember, we've seen a lot here in the last week or so. It was a 3.1, so that's a higher magnitude at 1:30 this morning, 1:31 this morning, 9 kilometers deep. If you want to see how many have been here in the last week, let's turn on 7 days all magnitudes. $53. So in the last 7 days they've had 50, that's 53 all stacked up there. See, it says 53 out of 1,515 earthquakes worldwide. So 1,515 earthquakes worldwide for all magnitudes in the last week. And 53 of those were right here. Look at that. Something's happening. Something's happening. And the largest one is the latest one, this 3.1. That happened at 1:31 this morning. I think I'll just leave that on. The yellow ones are the ones, old ones in the last week. We had a 3.3 near Salmon, Idaho, today at 6:23 this morning. Here's a 0.2 near West Yellowstone, Montana at 12:39 this afternoon. Here's a 1.2 near Manhattan, Montana at 10:22 last night. 22:22. 10:22 last night. I'm going to turn that off. It's annoying. But look at this. See, it's deceiving because until you go in close, you can't really tell. We've had 3 here near Manhattan, Montana in the last 24 hours, all within just a few minutes. This 1.7 was at 10:08 last night. Then a 1.2 at 10:21 last night, and then another 1.2 at 10:22 last night. There's that. Then look up here, a 1.6 near Thompson Falls, Montana. This one came in yesterday at 5:37 p.m. Now moving on over, and this is where we saw that sulfur dioxide releasing this area. Here's a little one, a 0.9 near Burley, Washington at 5:01 this morning. 1.8 near DuPont, Washington at 4:12 this morning. See, that's not very far from Olympia. Coming on down. Here in Northern California was a 2.2 near Willow Creek at 9:38 p.m. last night. Oh, look over here. There's Quincy. We know Quincy, don't we? We saw a couple of little ones over here at Greenville yesterday. We've got two more, a 0.9 and a 0.7, both last night. This 0.7 was at 12:28 p.m. last night, and the 0.9 was at 12:45 p.m. 10:45. So 10:28. That was at 10:28 last night, and 10:45 last night. Then we've got a 2.3 near Taylorsville. This one happened at 3:50 this afternoon, 3 kilometers deep. There's Quincy. There's Chico. Remember Oroville. This is all not too far from, here's Oroville and the dam, not too far. So, it's just across the mountain there. Mountains. Let's come on over and see what's going on. Anything in Nevada to speak of. Here we go. 1.5 near Lovelock at 9:29 this morning. Next, 0.9 near Gabbs. 0.8 near Gabbs. Got two right there, two little ones right there. Here's Walker Lake. Here's Hawthorne. We got 3 right down there. Here's the biggest one, a 1.2 near Hawthorne. Pretty quiet. Like I said, the earthquake makers have taken the day off. 1.0 near Beatty, and a minus 0.2 near Beatty, so microquake there. That's all in Nevada. Let's go back up here to the geysers. Look at this. Oh my gosh, 28 here today. That's pretty active. Here's at a minus 0.6 kilometers depth. There's a 0.9. And we talked about those minus ones. It's where the magma is coming up in the chamber, like of an old volcano, and it causes the earthquake up above the surface. So most of these are pretty small. They're in the 1s and under, except for this 2.8 near Cobb. Came in at 1:39 this morning. There's that. Coming on down. San Francisco. Here's one right off the coast. 1.2 near Daly City at 6:05 this morning. Coming on down. the San Andreas Fault. Here's a couple. 1.1 near San Ardo at a minus 0.2 kilometers depth, so we know what that means. And a 0.9 near Parkfield. Next is a 1.9 near Fraser Park. Let's get this one. 1.8 near Bodfish. Let's get this one on the coast. 2.5 near San Simon. This one happened at 4:10 this afternoon. It's actually on the land. Coming on down the coast. Here's one. Uh-oh. Here's two here. Here's a 1.9 just off of Malibu Beach at 9:54 this morning, and a 2.6 at 3:30 this morning. Right there. Here's a 1.2 near Granada Hills. Here's a new one. 1.1 near Redlands. Mexico is clear as far as reporting. So in Southern California, we're seeing 53 here on the map right now. So we've got a cluster of 3 down here in Westmoreland, a 2.0, 2.1, and 2.0. Here's a 2.2 near Ocotillo Wells. So we're seeing larger magnitude, 1.7 near Ocotillo Wells. Here's a cluster of 6 near Julian. 2.7. See, they're getting higher in magnitude. Just gradually going up. Then these are in the 1s range and smaller. See? Oh, we saw Julian. We saw Lake Henshaw yesterday. Was it yesterday? And they've got 2 more in the lake today too. A 1.1 and a 0.8 at Lake Henshaw. Here's Kauai. See our cluster? We've got 28 on, sorry, didn't mean to hit the mic. 28 on the map today. They're all small. The biggest one is a 2.3. The rest of them are under that. 1s and under. Now let's come on up this east side. See, we've got some little ones here. We saw that 1.8 near Bodfish. 0.7 near Ridgecrest. 0.7 near Coso Junction. And 0.8 near Coso Junction. Next, here's one at Mono Lake. 0.6. They're calling it near Bridgeport, but that's Mono Lake. Or Mono Lake. That one happened at 1:39 this morning. And here's a 0.9 near Mammoth Lakes at 10:17 this morning. Here's a 1.3 near Bridgeport. I think that's it. We showed all of those. Uh-oh. Got a new one down here. This one just came in. Off the coast of Nicaragua. 4.4 near Masachapa, Nicaragua at 5:25 p.m. 35 kilometers deep. Looks like Christmas tree lights. Look at that. 2.0 near Nikiski, Alaska. That's new. Let's see. 2.5 magnitude and higher. '43. We got that one in Nicaragua. We got Nami, Japan. We got San Simone. We got Yonling, China. We got Hofen, Iceland. I think that's a wrap. So I love you guys. I pray for all of you every day. And every day we're here is one day less that we'll be here. One day less that you have to get ready to leave. So, I recommend come to God and Jesus while you still have time. Until next time, God bless, go in peace, and goodbye.